Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be doing something similar to Monday's video. If you haven't watched Monday's video, I did a gouache spread in my sketchbook where I kind of treat it like my digital sketch pages, where I kind of go from left to right on a page and kind of let some of the things that I'm drawing kind of overlap. And I'm going to be showing you guys what I'm drawing today. So this is Dokyeom from 17, and he posted some really cute selcas or like selfies onto his Instagram, and I absolutely love when they wear like simplistic clothing and in more of a cozy setting. So I really wanted to draw these. So here we go. I'm going to treat it very similarly how I just do my normal sketch pages, except that I'm going to keep it a little bit less sketchy compared to, I think like a few weeks ago I did a video saying like, I think it's a sketch with me video, and I said let's make a sketch page, and that one's truly more like sketching and then kind of like picking and choosing different sketches that I want to bring up to a certain finish and then leaving everything else kind of messy and unfinished. This one I kind of treat it like my other 17 ones, where I will sketch a few things out onto a canvas, we'll color it in, and then I'll try to make sure everything looks nice and tidy, or neat and tidy, I guess. And then we'll go into rendering and kind of like finish them off a little bit so that they don't look too rough. And the whole idea is just to get a spread with kind of like more of a cohesive either color palette or just like interlocking the different sketches together, because I like making the sketches kind of like overlap one another. I think this looks really neat, and that's how I usually approach it when I do things in my sketchbook as well. So yeah, we're gonna start off, and I usually start off with the biggest figure or thing that I want to draw first, and I kind of pick either the left side, the right side, or the center, or wherever I want to usually start. Just because I am right-handed, and usually when working in my sketchbook I work left to right, I decided to start with the left again. So I'm drawing Dokyeom, and I think this is like his main photo. He's holding like a really big kind of mug filled with, I don't know if it's like a latte or like coffee or anything like that. It's just some kind of warm drink, because like he is in a cafe setting and he's wearing just white, and the background's kind of more of a cream color. We'll get into color choices a little bit later, but I thought this one would be fun to do for a video just because of how simplistic it is. And I think I talked about this before too, is that whenever I do kind of these fan arts in this kind of sketch page kind of mindset, I treat it kind of like a study rather than just like a creative drawing process, if that makes sense. So usually when I do videos like, let's say the Scaramouche video or like the Wanderer, I usually have to think about pose, I'm thinking about the background, potential atmosphere, just kind of like general things for coloring or sketching, just like preliminary stuff that I need to think about prior to drawing, unless I just want to wing it on the spot, which I don't like usually doing if I'm doing a video. But for these kinds of things where I have references that I'm kind of just compiling into just like a whole canvas, it does knock out and allows me to turn off a little bit of thinking because I do have a reference. So usually when I do like 17 fan arts like this, like I said, I have a reference. So I'm kind of following it mostly for sketching, usually the base colors as well. But once we get into rendering, I usually kind of abandon it because I'm not here to do like a one-to-one version. I am translating the picture into my style, and I'm drawing Dokyeom how I usually draw him. I know some people draw him a little bit differently, make the nose a little bit more prominent. I just don't know how I want to draw certain parts of his features, but yeah, let's see. I'm trying to figure out. So as you can see, after I was finished the one on the left, I decided to do the one on the right next, and I'm gonna go through several phases with this one. I don't really like how I drew the eyes, so it's gonna go through I think 2 changes, and then we're gonna consistently or constantly kind of shrink him down because I want to fit a third figure or third version of Dokyeom into the canvas, but I don't want it to be entirely like floating, if that makes sense. Sometimes I think when I do kind of like these sketch pages, sometimes there's like a gap in between some of these sketches, which makes the thing look a little bit more incomplete. So for me, if I can, I like to fill up the canvas as much as possible and leave those gaps less apparent. So if you watch the Masaki one where I was drawing Masaki with a bunch of Pokemon, like grass Pokemon, I think I had too many gaps in that one, which is probably why I didn't like that particular sketch page as much. I would like to redo it eventually. But even if you saw Monday's video, I definitely kind of made sure a lot of the figures were touching each other, and if I had any empty space, I'll try my best to figure out either a pose or any kind of thing that might fit into that area. So sometimes it's easier having references already planned out. Like the ones of Dokyeom, I think there's 5 pictures to choose from, and I chose the first 3 because the other ones were more like farther away kind of photos. I think it'd be more interesting if I added them, but I really just wanted to draw his face mostly. Also just like, I guess like face and his shirt. I didn't really care about like getting the rest of his body in, so I kind of kept with the first 3 references because like I said, the other ones have more of his, like the rest of his body just exposed. It has like his torso and his legs and, you know, like full arms and stuff. I do think it's more interesting, like I said, if I'm like going out of my way to either look for references or I am planning the spread in my head and I'm planning out poses, I will try my best to do like an up close version. So this could be up their face, their eyes, anything that's more like detailed and, you know, just like a larger version. And then the next few ones I would usually do like another smaller headshot, as well as usually maybe a waist up or something, so we can get a little bit of variation in terms of like the size of each little sketch. So the good thing that I did for this one, the third one, I kind of went a lot larger, luckily, because I wanted to make sure I didn't want to cut off his face and just like the general kind of vibe that Dokyeom usually has. Maybe I should call him DK, it might be easier for you guys to understand what I'm saying. Maybe I'll use it like interchangeably, but for this one, like I said, it was easy for me to do a close-up on his face, just because the way it's angled, I thought it kind of fits right nicely into like the middle of between the 2 sketches right here. So that is what I'm going to do. And yeah, everything is just simple sketching. Like I said, I try to keep everything quite neat in the beginning because I know I want to take my time, or not take my time, I don't want to take too much time coloring, and I wanted to keep things like fairly simple. So once we finish the sketch, you'll see that when I lock the, or like alpha lock the sketch, I won't be erasing too much and I will be able to shift the colors a little bit more easily and kind of keep it more soft. And usually when I get into like the coloring and the rendering phase, I try to keep it clean as well, so that the rendering part is much more easier. But for sketching, because I have a reference, my lines are a little bit more deliberate because I'm kind of using the reference as kind of like a guide for me to place certain things. So I like, compared to like, let's say my Genshin fan art where I'm not using a direct reference, like I'm not doing like drawing something into my style, I'm like making a new illustration with a character, right? Usually when I do that, I use a bunch of guidelines. I have to figure out how the body's gonna work. I need to figure out like hand positioning, where the character is facing. But like I said, if you have a reference and you're just doing kind of translating that picture into your style, which is a lot of like, I feel like K-pop fan artists do a lot. I feel like that's kind of like a trend that I've seen and a lot of us gravitate towards, because every time we see like a cute moment, we're gonna want to draw it, kind of thing. Or like you see something that maybe like, oh, the lighting on this picture looks really beautiful and I kind of want to draw so and so like that. So you kind of, I think in a sense, like treat it like a study. But a lot of us fans are like fan artists, you'll see like the same picture being drawn by different people, and it's interesting to see the different styles. So yeah, that's why I think it feels more like a study rather than just like thinking of up a new illustration kind of thing. So for the background, I decided to pick more of a warmer, almost like cream colored. for the background, and then I did a grid using the grid brush that is provided in Procreate. So I did 2 grids. I did one with a just plain white, and then I did one with a kind of like pale orangey brown, and I made sure that it was kind of offset so that we could have it as kind of like a shadow to the white, or you can treat it kind of like a very brief looking, I don't even know if it's gingham. I'm probably like, is it gingham or is it like plaid? It's just like kind of a patterning, kind of looks like a tablecloth. I just wanted to keep it soft and very simple. Usually when I do like these sketch pages, and I usually treat them a little bit more sketchier, I would drop a grid because it kind of gives me that same kind of feeling of graph paper, like doodling on graph paper, so things don't have to look super neat or anything. I just think it looks really cute as an aesthetic. And later on, after when we finish coloring and rendering Dokyeom, I will also add a little bit of doodling on top. So usually I drop in their names, any arrows or anything to point to certain things to indicate certain things I want people to look at or anything like that, as well as like little doodles of like either hearts or stars or like little explanation marks or anything like that for each of the sketches. So just kind of keeping that kind of doodling-ish vibe afterwards is kind of nice. I just think it looks really cute like overall with everything. But for coloring, so I've already changed the color for the sketch to multiply, as well as making it a little bit more of a warmer brown, and then I made a new layer, and then we are starting with just coloring in general. So I like to start off with the skin. The skin tone became very similar to the background color, except for it has a little bit more pink compared to the yellow in the background, but I wanted to keep everything like a little bit more saturated so it could stand out. I know there's gonna be a lot of white because all of his clothing and the cup are gonna be white, but for the skin I decided to make it a little bit more orangey reddish, and then we can add a little bit of purples and kind of keep the face a little bit more vibrant so it can stand out from the background. Hair was not going to be a problem because his hair was black, so it could stand out from the background no problem. I am going to be adding obviously the skin tone to his hair to soften it up. I'm going to do a little bit of cooler tones and some warmer tones for the highlights, and I think later on I'm going to add more of a bluish green so that we can kind of like tinge it to be a little bit more or cooler, because his hair is more of a, I think it looks more, actually is it not a natural black, I'm not too sure. It does definitely look a little bit cooler. I know a lot of people who have naturally black hair tend to have a little bit more of warmer tones. I don't know. I know for me, if anything, my hair is actually quite brown. My mom likes to make fun of me that I don't have like enough nutrients, or I don't eat enough like black beans or something, because my hair is not as brown as like the rest of my family. And I think it's just because my hair is dead at the ends, because it's like significantly brown at the very ends compared to like the root of my hair. I'm not too bothered by it, but I do get like questioned every so often. I go to like a hair salon or just any person who cuts my hair. They always ask if I dye my hair, and when I was younger I thought the term in Cantonese to dye your hair was to mean to straighten your hair, and at the time I think I was in like the end of middle school, I think, so I didn't really know that kind of vocabulary. So the lady asked me like, did you dye your hair in Cantonese? And I said yes, because I thought she said, did you straighten your hair? Because at the time I would straighten my hair because I liked pin straight hair when I was in middle school, but obviously I don't have pin straight hair because of just like, you know, stuff happens, like if you ever tie up your hair, or like when you wake up and you just brush your hair, it's gonna be a little bit wavy. Yeah, and I think I also like, I always straightened my bangs at the time to curl them in a little bit, because I had like side swept bangs, and I would curl them a little bit so that they would stay kind of rolled very little bit like towards one side. But like my mom like smacked me on the back and was like, she doesn't dye her hair. And I'm just thinking like, I don't even know what they're talking about. And my mom's like, you don't dye your hair, like your hair's not a different color. And I'm like, oh, I thought that meant like straightening your hair. Yeah, I learned. But now I just know that my hair is not very black towards the ends. I'm pretty sure it's just because it is dyeing. So yeah, not too big of a problem. But for Dokyeom's clothes, before I go on to entirely another tangent. So for his clothes, I did follow the reference in terms of picking some of the hues that were present in his shirt. So I was trying to make sure things looked fairly warm. So I chose a little bit of that yellowy color of the background and kind of his skin tone to do the warmer areas. And as we shift into cooler areas, I decided to pop in a pale purple very lightly on top of it, which kind of mixed more into a gray. And then to push the coolness, I will add a little bit more of a green blue, I guess, if that makes sense, towards certain edges and certain parts. Right here it's more of a purpley blue because I was sticking with that color, but the more I looked at his actual shirt in the reference, it had more of a green blue. And I believe when I start rendering, I'll add it to his eyes as well, so that we can kind of pull the colors together a little bit so it's not too out of place. But you guys already know my love for coloring like white clothing or just white fabric in general. Just like lighter colored fabric, I think it's fun to push and pull those huge shifts and stuff. But yeah, on the third doodle, or not third doodle, the one on the very right, I started to introduce a little bit more of that greeny kind of blue color for the shadows, which is going to help me push that cool tone because everything looked a little bit too warm for what I was going for. So it's better to probably push a little bit of those cool tones too. I feel like that's like one of the fun things about doing kind of like drawing something in your own style. Let's say kind of like how us K-pop fan artists do it, where you find a picture that you really like and you draw it in your own style. You can kind of like pick and choose what you want to translate into like something being super stylized versus like keeping true to the reference. Because I know some people who work more in a semi-realistic style, closer to, I guess, like in between realism and semi-realism, and you can kind of pick and choose what they want to stylize, and it's very cool because you can see like color choices, maybe they exaggerate, make the facial features a little bit more cartoony in a sense, or just like the way they render certain things. Like let's say they could simplify the shirt, make it a lot more flat compared to like the rest of the face, could, you know, garner a really different kind of style or just like interpretation. But for me, when I was doing Dokyeom's hair, I definitely kind of switched between the smaller it got, I made the hair a little bit more simple, and then the larger we got, we kind of made the hair a little bit more defined in terms of like having actual individual hair strands. But now that we have pretty much all the colors done, I decided to lock the sketch layer, and then I'm changing some of the colors to be a little bit warmer near the face, a little bit more muted towards his shirt, as well as trying to clean up some of these miscellaneous lines. Obviously, I really like how Procreate is able to, even though if you like alpha lock the layer, if you erase those pixels or like lines don't reappear after recoloring it, which is kind of nice, so I don't have to worry about like any hidden lines or anything. I'm doing one last pass like all the way around Dokyeom, just because I know when I merge my layers, anything that isn't covered by color underneath will become like super light, because without the multiply effect no longer being on it, they remain, or like they're reverted back to like their original color, which tends to be very light for me. But now that we are on the rendering phase, so this is basically just me cleaning up some things, and I make some choices that might be a little bit different than when I usually do like a finished illustration, let's say like any of my Genshin drawings or any of my VTuber drawings. So when I do these kinds of drawings, and I treat it more like what I consider like a sketch page, I'm kind of like picking and choosing where I'm darkening my lines and where I'm keeping things light, because I don't need everything to be super defined, nor do I need things to be super like consistent. So you can see I kind of darkened up things near his bangs, and then I kind of left things a little bit more of that lighter color. You'll see it more in the hands when we get to it, where I kind of darkened where the webbing of your fingers kind of is, if that makes sense. I know we don't really have like webbed fingers, but there's like that flap of skin between your fingers that kind of hang, or like bevel, if that makes sense. I make that darker, and then any straight lines of his fingers I kind of made a kind of like darker, more saturated red, because I don't really need it to be super dark to indicate like something is receding or something is in shadow. So you can see here I kind of go from a brown color to this kind of lighter red color, and then in the knuckles sometimes, or not the knuckles, like that webbing I said, I will make it a little bit darker. It's the same thing like for his mouth or lips. So usually near the center or just like the main part of the lips, I'll make it more of a reddish brown. And then near the corner of the mouth, I will make it like a very dark chestnut brown, even sometimes getting super close to black. They kind of indicate that really kind of much more darker value of the corner of the mouth kind of receding in. And even here, like I'm picking and choosing just to color in the corners to be a lot darker. So I think last week I mentioned that I wanted to do a start to finish video very soon. And the reason why I haven't done so is that I've been having a lot of like sinus problems in terms of just like a runny nose, a stuffy nose, feeling congested, and it's because of the temperature change. But I feel like everything has cleared up for the most part. It is getting colder again because it started snowing tonight, but I think if I can, I will try my best to get that start to finish video either next week or for Saturday, because I would like to knock one out before the end of the year, because it's been I think almost 3 months of not having another start to finish. I'm still kind of deciding who I want to draw, because I might want to do a little bit like preparatory work so that I don't feel too lost and the video won't be too long and just me kind of like winging it, because it will make the video a lot longer than what I would like initially like it to be. But the reason why like the sinus and like the sniffling and like all that jazz is kind of affecting my choice of not recording it quite yet is because it's in real time. I don't like editing too much out. Like I said, whenever I edit like ASMR videos, I can kind of like pick and choose, similar to how I do like my sketch with me and draw with me. I can just pick certain scenes, so I don't really have to have like consistent audio in terms of like not making like super loud noises, because if any loud noise I can just easily cut out. But for the start to finish ones, if I'm constantly having to sniffle, there's gonna be so many times I'm gonna have to cut out stuff, and sometimes like I sniffle without noticing that I'm also drawing. So usually when I'm editing those kinds of videos, I'm looking for like audio peaks for the most part. Sometimes I miss them because the videos could be like 3 hours long. I think there's probably a video where I missed it and I might have accidentally startled some of you guys. But yeah, I usually try to sniffle like super loud so that my mic will pick it up, and then I will be able to see it on the little waveforms on the audio thing on Camtasia, which is what I'm using to edit. I really should switch programs eventually, but I'm kind of stubborn and still using like a version of Camtasia that I still have. But what else was there? But yeah, I'll try my best to record a start to finish very soon. I'm just hoping it won't take too long for the drawing, because I don't want it to be overly too long. But I feel like the recent drawings that I've been doing have been a lot longer sessions, like closer to 4 to 5 hours rather than the 2 to 3 hours. But like I said, it depends on what I'm drawing. Actually, let me check it up real quick, because I know sometimes I deliberately pick subjects or things that I want to draw to be a little bit more simple for the start to finish. It doesn't really change my process. It's just, for me, it's just the length of the video is like, I know it's going to be a lot shorter. But the most recent one, I think it's of Noel. So I'm just going to go into my videos and look for Noel in here. So 3 hours and 47 minutes for Noel. So it's about 4 hours. So yeah, I think even for this session, I think it's 4.5 hours of me drawing Dokyeom. So we'll see what I'm gonna do, because I definitely think I should do some prep work for whoever I'm drawing. Some people suggested I draw, I don't know how you say her name, Dea? I think it's Dea. Some people also asked for Rosaria for a future one. Some people wanted me to do a redraw as well, because I think I mentioned talking about like wanting to do redraws, but I think some people mistook that as me doing the redraw for the start to finish, which I could do. So some people said that they would like to see Goro or Toma, but we'll see who I gravitate towards. I'm also leaning towards doing a VTuber as well, just because I really like their designs. So let me think. That or I could do, there's two other things I could do fan art for as well, like other than Genshin 17 or like Niji Sanji fan art. I do like ensemble stars a lot as well, and I would like to do more fan art of them, as well as Tears of Themis. So I do want to draw Luke and Artem. I want to draw all of them, to be honest, but I'm still intimidated to draw them properly, I feel like. So maybe someday in the future I'll properly draw each of our male leads, as well as Rosa. I would really love to draw Rosa as well, because she's like, I don't know. I think it's rare to have a female protagonist like Rosa, if that makes sense, especially for these kinds of like otome-ish games. I don't know, she's like a strong female lead, but then she's also very intelligent, very like, I don't know. I think if you play Tears of Famous, you would like Rosa, and maybe even like Rosa more than the male leads. Let me think. I'm trying to think if there's like something else I wanted to kind of update you guys about. Store update has been pushed. I think I'm gonna push it towards next year, probably in January maybe. We'll see. I'm gonna see if I can get something set and done, and I'll do like kind of like an apology thing as well for people who order, because I know I've been saying like since August like the update would happen in September, and then September rolled around, I said it was gonna be October. October rolled around, I said it was gonna be like late October, early November, and then now it's December. So yeah, I got confirmation on like production and stuff, so late December is kind of like the goal, but because it's like around the holiday season, I think it's best for me to push the store update until the next year. But I'll make sure to put some other stuff on the store so that if you guys do order, I'll try to make it worthwhile, as well as conventions. So the past month or so, I did apply to two conventions that I frequent before, as well as they're just more closer to my location and stuff. So fingers crossed that I get in. I know the results for one of them comes out in January, so I'm very nervous, because I think that's like one thing I didn't realize until the pandemic happened, is that how much I miss like conventions. It's like one way for me to spend just like 3 days with my friends, as well as just being around other artists. It's just really nice, and like browsing the art and seeing the different fandoms that you're in being represented in the artist alley and stuff. It's just overall fun. It's been a while since like me and my friends even just like browsed the convention as a whole. But I think for the most part, like even growing up, when we went to certain conventions, we mostly frequent the exhibitors hall and the artist alley for the most part, because that's what like we knew we wanted to go there to buy certain things or like to browse certain things. We do like, I think the only thing that we also attended at that time was probably, let me think, like there was like an anime game show in some rooms, and then I think my friend had another friend who did like breakdancing. He had like a whole crew who did some like audition for like the talent show for one of the anime conventions. We also went to like a FMV fan made music video kind of thing. I don't know what it's called. I never really got into that kind of phase of anime, like watching fan made anime AMVs. It's called AMVs, I think. Yeah, AMVs. And yeah, I remember being at one of them, and I didn't really wanted to be there. I think it's because my friend had a bunch of guy friends who were like, come with us to the AMV thing, it'll be super fun. And then we went there, and I don't think that's like the kind of atmosphere I really like thrive in. Not only that, like I didn't know these people like that closely. They were like high school friends with my friend, and I did not attend the same high school, so I did not know them at all. But yeah, AMV wasn't as interested in them. And then I remember trying to silence my phone because my brother and my dad were in Hong Kong phoning me and being like, hey, like where are you, we need you to do something for us. And I'm like, I'm not at home, like I'm out with friends, I can't really talk on the phone right now, you're gonna have to phone mom, that kind of stuff. Now that I've rambled all my way, what am I saying? Now that I rambled all the way through the drawing process, I am doing kind of like the doodling part of what I like to do for these kinds of sketch pages. So like I said, I like to add the person's name usually, because when I do 17 drawings, I usually add the little arrows because sometimes I draw multiple people. So I like having the arrows indicate who I was drawing for the sketch page. And then I'm adding little like sparkles, little anything that's kind of like more emotive for the character. So, or I guess the person in this case, Dokyeom is not a character. But yeah, like little sparkles and stuff, and doing a white outline. I also did a white outline around Dokyeom, and then I duplicated it, made a light brown version to kind of just shift over, so we kind of have a almost like a sticker effect look with the white border and the shadow. And then after I do the white, I believe I already added a drop shadow to the text, and then I think that's it for the little doodling. I kept this one very simple just because I don't want it to disrupt any of his face or his like his shirt and stuff. I just don't want it to be too overwhelming in terms of adding too much stuff, so I kept things just like one for each of the doodles each. Add my signature because, you know, people repost a lot, so I usually add it in for my 17 ones, especially because like on Tumblr and sometimes just like seeing your stuff and they get reposted without having the signature kind of bothers me. Yeah, that is the finished piece for the Dokyeom little drawings that I did. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's session. I think today's voiceover just became super rambly. I'm just finally glad that I'm no longer congested, so that's kind of nice. But yeah, this is how I usually do my sketch pages in a sense, or like my doodle pages. So yeah, just start on one side, move across, and kind of fill in the gaps, and then in the end you just fill in the rest of the space with a little bit of text and a little bit of doodles, and that's about it. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye!